Thank you for,
Good catch.
All right. Let me just text Mark.
thank you for the good
All
At
right,
least
well,
Neil was.
gentlemen, it's the last day of June. And, yeah, as we mentioned, PSA, anyone watching in, the hands-free starts tomorrow. So I'll need to get one of those watches. The,
Yeah, shoot your text message to the watch.
Yeah.
well, I don't text my watch, but you can do verbal. I don't know. I guess you can ask Siri to send text for you. I'm not very tech savvy,
I'm not a
so.
big Apple person.
You're not
Serious good
Apple
job.
fan. Siri does a good job. All right, well, I have some minutes from our last meeting. I'm gonna distribute those. If you wanna take one, pass it around. We met on 6/22, so that was a little over a week ago. I think, thanks Nathan for the minutes. I reviewed them. They look good. He also summarized kind of the tentative agreements as understood from reviewing from his seat. I think that it's pretty accurate, and we still do need to come back and do some housekeeping on this. And then there's proposals where there isn't a mutual agreement. The only exception is holidays, non-monetary proposal number 5, I think as I understood it, and I said the language would be revised, the contract employee section, so it's just a matter of, we agree in principle on that, so technically that should move to the tentative agreement, with that revision. But I think the others, do not have agreement or need further discussion, which brings us to today's meeting, because some of these items are pending our discussion. So, any questions or comments on the minutes? All right. There isn't. I would like to start, I know, I'm going to give you a response and an update. There was an executive session with the council, so we've had, I think, 2 now. Just one since our last meeting, and that allowed us to come back rather quickly today to try to get some, the conversation moving as far as the monetary pieces. But before we get to that, I want to distribute, doesn't matter the order.
No.
I'll just go ahead and start with this one. If you take one and pass it around. These are a couple just housekeeping items that we'd like to see in the contract. This one is dealing with Article 19. I'll defer. Who wants to speak to
The
this?
clothing allowance?
You-
This is
coming
the
around?
clothing.
This is just uniforms?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's for probationary employees. We just wanted to add a little language to kind of match the process, just to clean it up a little bit. So if you want to look at that as written and then basically adding, so that we either get equipment, or if the equipment is something we can't reuse, like shoes and dress pants or something like that for the non-sworns, we would just have them pay back for those items, and they keep them. Because currently, we take all those items. We can't reuse them, we can't do anything with them. They just
Do we
sit.
not have some kind of language like this already? Because I could have sworn we did something like this with Captain Daniels a couple years
Well,
ago when he was.
I mean, it was the probationary period. They couldn't take
Oh,
it
how they
on
get
account.
their-
They couldn't take
They have to
account.
take it.
They have to take it on account. They can't do a cash
And it's
option.
prorated, right, based on if they get hired.
It was 50%
2 months.
is
It
what it
was.
was, 50% on the first
Yeah.
year. And we did away with that because of, it was not that seamless for accounting. So we just went back to the 100%, but prorated, depends on when you're hired.
So do we need to change that?
So
That was changed.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was.
We changed that last go round.
I'm just curious, has there been an issue with probationary employees not having their uniform items at the end of their first, or if they leave before the
No,
first year?
we collect them, but there's some of those items that if they want to keep them, or like a dispatcher or records that leaves. I mean, there's no sense, we don't want to take their shoes and pants, right, when they're dress slacks that we can't reissue, we can't reuse. It's where that comes from.
So if a dispatcher comes on and gets a prorated uniform allowance, right? So it's a prorated portion if you have like less than a full year before October 1st. That was a prorated portion. So they go out and purchase a pair of dress pants, they don't make the program, 2 months later, they're told to turn it back in, those pants are acceptable?
No, in that situation, we would ask that they reimburse us for those pants.
They can keep the pants.
Or they can, yeah, and they keep,
What if they don't want them because they're giving out law enforcement?
well,
Then-
yeah.
then you
so-
take 'em back?
So those ones, no, because those we can't reissue. If there's stuff like from a patrol officer that we can reissue out, that we can take back and reissue, we wouldn't charge them for those items. We would take those items, because right now they turn all that into us, and what we can, we reissue, what we can't, we throw away.
I truly get the management portion of it, but if I'm looking at a probationary employee who comes to us for a disciplinary hearing and says, hey, I have a problem, and we all know it's gonna go down that road of being into your road, we're going to ding them for X amount of prorated dollars, up to, let's say, I mean, I think dispatches right now are, on the current, uniform allowance is $250, $350. So we could essentially tell them, you're on your way out the door and we want X amount of dollars back. Sounds a little harsh. So if they have the uniform item that was paid for by the city's money, and they're willing to, it's not tit for tat, it's not, a pair of pants is no longer $50, but if they have what the city gave them, at the end of my employment with the city, I'm required to turn in whatever uniform items I have, right?
What you were issued. Yeah.
Turn in the equipment or
Or,
reimburse the city.
yeah.
Okay, so the pants would be acceptable then. If they don't have the pants, you would want the money back for it. But if they have the item they purchased, then we're,
Right. Initially, yeah, because that's right, we did change
Mhm, we
this.
did.
We changed this since
Do,
the
do,
first draft.
do non-sworn, like your records and dispatch, do they get issued the light blue shirt and uniforms?
After probation.
After
after
probationary
probation-
period,
after
they get the-
probationary,
the
so-
uniform.
And that's provided to them under like the section C, the new hire, but it'd be after probation. Sworn officers get a working uniform.
Up front.
Up front. Do they have to use their clothing allowance by their academy and stuff?
No.
Nope,
that's
we,
issued.
we purchased that.
That's issued? Do you require that back, like the pants and the shirts from that?
The shirts, we haven't, because they have their
Their
name on
t-shirt,
them,
and their
but
t-shirts.
We can't do
T-shirts.
anything with those,
But the-
so that we've allowed them to keep those if they don't make it through that period.
so how is the city currently tracking it? Let's go back to the dispatcher because their uniforms are pretty much common as far as dress attire or semi-dress attire. So if we have a dispatcher who is given X amount of dollars, and forgive me if I don't know the dispatch process, but when they get hired on, they don't go to Uniforms to Gear to purchase new items, or do they? Or are they given X amount of dollars and said, go buy this item that's based on your policy? How does it
Yeah,
work for them?
well, they still get the card,
Right.
and they can purchase shoes, the embroidered shirts, or whatever, their uniform, meets the.
And for the
requirements of
dispatchers, again,
policy.
are the dispatchers currently wearing a shirt such as this? Is this a requirement for them? Or are they allowed to wear a semi-dress shirt, or do we know?
I think it's a
I
semi-dress
think
shirt.
it's semi-dress shirt. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of listed as far as colors and things like that, but I don't think it has to be embroidered.
Okay, so they go take their uniform allowance card and they buy a dress shirt that's according to policy. What's the tracking method to say that this was the amount that was spent, and this is the shirt that they're reimbursing you with? That makes sense?
Yeah, through that card, you can track it. Karina-
Yeah.
Karina
On
can
the
track
bank
it.
statement.
Yeah, Karina
The
gets
expense
those
report would show I made a purchase
printouts.
at whatever, where,
Yeah.
it show I made a purchase at whatever location.
Amazon.
But it's not gonna say exactly what it was I bought. So, and maybe we're getting too far into the weeds here, right? You're gonna want to know what it is they purchased.
No, she does know what they
It's-
purchased. Because we've
it'll
had several of
say-
those that go back, and she's
Yeah.
like, you can't buy that on that, with that card.
Right, and as should be, right. So there is some sort of tracking method to
There's a
say,
method.
okay, so employee A went in and bought X, and, yeah, you're fired now, so we need your shirt back. So we're not gonna be looking at, hey, you need to pay us back with a shirt that's not actually something,
I
it's
see
becoming,
what you're saying.
I'm trying to avoid an argument for
I see what
myself,
you're
right?
saying.
It's gonna become an argument for me to have
Right.
to battle with, and I don't wanna do it. So there is a tracking method to know what they purchased, and these are the items you're gonna return.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
All right, next one.
Sorry, any other questions on this one? Tyler? Okay. Sorry.
And then. Take one of this around. This is the addition of a position.
Yeah, it's not a new body. position, but basically adding a step, like a supervisor, it's a victim witness lead that we would like to add. Obviously, it's a contract position, so that's why we want.
And it's in Appendix
Well, not
A,
yours.
right? And that's where it goes.
Yes. So basically, you have the victim witness 1, 2, 3, yeah. So we would like to add a victim witness lead. To the contract, to fill with the current victim witness. But it's not a new body, if that makes sense. It's like a new step. That would make that victim witness a lead position. So they could have some supervisory, making sure that their reports are getting completed, making sure they're doing their follow-ups, because we've had some kind of fall through the cracks. And so we'd like to have the position there. It's got a little more responsibility, being able to watch that stuff, making sure that those cases are being followed up on and they're maintaining everything they need to.
Is there a job description written?
Basically, no.
I mean,
No, I mean,
but
just
that
as
would
far
be the,
as 1 year as a victim witness, 3 good standing to test for the position. I mean, to be similar to like your dispatch leads, records leads, things like that. It's an obviously not sworn position.
to keep it in line with the rest of it, do you want it as lead or supervisor? Because it's dispatch supervisor, it's records supervisor.
Honestly, I don't
Does it make a difference?
I don't think it would make a
Well, I
difference.
mean-
But
I
Would
mean,
keep
their
it- keep it
responsibilities be
consistent.
similar to doing evaluations and everything, I guess, everything the supervisor does, so
Right.
it's a wording thing.
Right.
so-
Yeah, but
I
keep
mean,
it
but to
consistent,
keep it
so I don't know that
consistent
that
with
would-
throughout.
Yeah, because what we're also.
Yeah, I don't
looking
think
at
the word,
that
I'm just
position
thinking,
is-
there is a difference there than like a supervisor or a dispatch. Those supervisors are in the dispatch and records, both report to a manager, where this position
Reports to
directly to a corporal and a sergeant.
Right.
So there is a difference there. And I'm not saying we can't call it super, I'm just saying that there is a difference for clarification there.
I mean, they're not gonna be doing scheduling or things like that, right? They still have the sergeant and the corporal of that unit
So I guess the question I
that
have then, based
oversees
on
them.
that,
They are,
the question I have then is,
Yeah.
what do they do that's different than a corporal and a sergeant? Because if I'm the victim witness lead, I guess I'd want to know my parameters, so if I'm getting a pay bump, there should be some extra responsibility.
And-
But if
and
I
it's
just have to
gonna
run
be the-
decisions through the corporal and sergeant, then what's the difference?
and I think that position may evolve over time as we add new positions, obviously working with you guys and what that looks like. But maybe the potential of supervising other civilian employees, over there. Out of the gate, what, we wanna see is that lead position, supervisor position, whatever, is just reviewing cases, making sure cases are being followed up on, making sure things aren't, falling through the cracks or getting missed, and just staying on that, who's assigned what case and that sort of thing. Things that just get missed by the
So
sergeants and
if
corporals.
an
Who is doing
individual
that
is
position
not a
right now?
victim witness.
No one is doing
No,
that.
nobody.
But
did
who's
now,
overseeing victim witnesses like?
The-
Sergeant
Warwick and
Rogers.
nurse?
Sergeant, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just don't know anything
Yeah.
about that division, so.
So if someone who's not the victim witness lead, a victim witness coordinator, but not the lead,
Right.
ends up in a disciplinary matter, who's responsible as far as the supervision to handle that? Is it going to be the victim witness lead, or would it be the FJC sergeant?
I would see it still as the FJC sergeant. I would see
yeah.
it being the lead, probably going to the sergeants, saying, hey, Sarge, I found that these cases aren't being followed up on, or victims aren't being contacted, or whatever.
It's a
It
unique,
still
and
follows
that's why I'm
under-
saying, I don't think it's like anything else we have in the
Right.
contract. I think it is completely unique to the victim witness, because that job is so unique.
So part of our question.
It's almost like in between of a corporal and a FTO. I mean, really, it's a in between
Yeah.
of, they have more responsibility than an FTO with a direct supervision, but not as much as a,
So
correct.
part of my questions, based around what we're talking about here, would be, for the people who do not become the victim witness lead, my question to us would be, why are they getting paid more if we don't know what the responsibilities are? So, back to the question of, do we know the responsibilities yet? How do we justify an answer
So-
to the people who are not the victim witness lead as?
so the answer is yes. I know there's been one written up, and I've seen it. I couldn't tell you exactly, it was easily a year ago where I saw that. There is,
Yeah,
the
it's been
parameters
quite
that
a
are written
while.
up, and we can get that to you. I don't have that with us, so.
Okay. So we do have a answer to give them
Yes,
one.
yes, we do. I know where
And
you're
it's probably
going,
gonna need
and yeah.
some adjustments.
Right, yeah, things evolve.
But-
Things evolve.
right.
But it'd be nice to know going out of the gate, we have a purpose of what we're paying them extra for, rather than just because.
Yeah, it is, and it's, research has been done, it's fairly a lengthy response, I think you're gonna have for that. It's not the official one from IKHR, but
Right.
we can adopt it to that.
Question?
Yeah, so that's a housekeeping one. The intention in the next budget year is to have that position funded, I think at the rate that you listed, correct?
Correct.
The amount, so,
Are other victim witness groups in Ada County or whoever may have witness victims set up, is there a similar position like that in other agencies? Or is this something new that
I,
like,
I honestly don't know the answer to that.
I don't know I can't tell you for sure. I almost think
Yeah.
Kenny County Prosecutors has something similar, but I'm not 100% on that. It seems like there was one at one point. But it was also different than what we had, because that
yeah, I'm just trying to
structure
think,
is
kind of
different.
what Shepherd is saying is like,
Yeah.
I just don't wanna create confusion or
Right.
this isn't your role. My boss is still sergeant over CID.
Right.
You're not my boss, you just case management my work,
No, I
but
still
you're
think,
not my actual
I still
boss.
think that lead there would be a direct report to that lead.
Right.
Much like an FTO, but not the same level as a sergeant, right? The
Is
sergeant-
there a reason why you wouldn't put it, instead of creating a new box under victim witness, include it into a specialty training?
Like the canine, right, is what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it, and I mean, it's obviously not like patrol investigation, I mean, like, in any of those specialty groups. I mean, the closest one I could think of would be like the canine coordinator position, that, I mean, like, canine stuff goes
Yeah.
through that person, victim witness center will go through that person,
Yeah.
but that's not your supervisor. For disciplinary issues, they still report to somebody.
Yeah, but I still think you are correct, Tyler, but
Yeah.
I think there's still it's a little bit more in-depth because the canine coordinator is specific for training and canine stuff, where day-to-day you answer your corporal, where in this, you would still be a direct report to that. It's a unique position. I mean, really, that's
Because
what
they
it
would
comes down to.
report to the lead in essence for what cases are you getting today? What follow-ups have you done? Doing that type of supervision,
Yeah.
as far as the day.
But the disciplinary will go back to the unit sergeant, where it's different, where it's more unique than a dispatcher records, where that dispatch record supervisor can take care of the discipline. So it is a unique position.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
Thank
it might
you.
help clarify some of our questions if we can find that
Yeah.
description.
We'll get that updated.
And if it's still accurate, right? If it's been a year,
Yeah.
is it accurate? This might be helpful.
Yeah, well, yeah, it would,
Is that the one we did for when we tried to get the grant?
I think so. I think it was right around that time.
because like in policy, I mean, like even like going back to the canine coordinator, it lists out a series of things that they are responsible
Right.
for, and so, I mean, it'd be nice to have that to,
Yeah.
to,
Yep, we'll get that to you, get it to you tomorrow.
Anything else?
okay. So that covers really the two housekeeping pieces. Onto the monetary, so I know that's where you're really clear with us, so thank you. I think setting clear expectations. Went to council, had an executive session, communicated to the mayor and council, and also looking at the finances. And so just to reiterate, I think the last meeting or the meeting prior, based on the updated financial forecast that Doug provided, there was a willingness from the council to go up to 208, which was about the amount that would cover the 7% insurance. Might be off by $1 or a cent or something, but we would solidify. It would be the set amount in the proposal that you had, which is a fixed dollar amount contribution from the city to the healthcare cost. The last meeting, the vest and the body armor, as well as the clothing allowance for the uniforms. We did some cost analysis on that and looked at it. The willingness from the council, and we have a council member here, was to absolutely support the vest piece, the body armor. I can tell you that there is, unified support from the mayor and council. Anything that it would be a life-saving piece of equipment to support that. I think the cost estimate we did on that was around $8,000. Can you confirm that?
Right.
About a year.
I'm renewing 30 vests this year.
30 vests at that increase that you asked for. So the increase, was it $250 a piece?
Yes.
Yes, $250 a piece. The uniform piece, there isn't the money to meet that request on your end for the uniforms. So the uniform allowance would remain as is in the contract. But it's the 208 plus the 8 for the vest. And so that's 216, which is where the city's at right now, as far as to contemplate. There is flexibility if you look at there aren't strings attached. I think the vest piece, in good faith, the council's saying, if you need the vest money, take the vest money, use it for vests. So not to pocket it somewhere else and then not use vests and come back and ask for that. So I think that there is a good faith commitment to say, hey, you need vests, you need more money for vests, absolutely, more money for vests. The 208 for insurance, now I know from, having heard from your gal, your fixed amount cost to yourself might be less than 7% or whatever. That would be up for your body. If you wanted to take less in the insurance pool, you have the option of funding uniform. If you decreased it a point, it's about 30,000 a point. If you took 5% in the insurance piece, I think it would be about 60,000 that you would allocate somewhere else. I don't think council would resist some sort of creative funding on your part and how to take that money and divvy it out if you didn't. So the string isn't attached to you must take the insurance, you must take the vest. If you came back and your body said, you know what, the clothing is a higher priority, we could probably give a point or two on the insurance and get insurance met plus clothing allowance. I don't think, I won't speak, Councilman Bruner's here, I think that the fixed amount of 216, there's really just a budgetary limit that we're looking at, so.
What was the cost estimate on the uniform allowance that
I think $49,714.76.
Yeah. And then the vest was 8,000, so that, the 58 on top of the 208 was just going too far north for budget purposes this year.
Did the council have any conversations as far as not meeting the full amount for the requested clothing allowance, but a smaller amount?
No, the vest, there's support for the body armor, to be clear. There's just a cost piece on the other that there is no lower counteroffer on that.
Is the council aware that in the last 3 years, we've added additional stuff that we were required to add to our uniforms that the city doesn't pay for, but we have to have? Holders for the camera system that the city went to at $30-some a pop for if you put them on a uniform shirt or into a vest.
Not to mention the winter jacket.
The new plastic badges that we were required to buy, I don't know how much those cost per badge, but they last 6 months maybe before they start getting worn by seatbelts and stuff like that. And all that stuff is newly required, and there's been an update in our uniform allowance for, going back for probably 10 years. And in the last 3 years, there's two things that are being added to our officers to have to put on their uniforms.
I can probably speak to that. As far as that clarity has been to me, those individual items, plastic badge, etc. The general understanding of the council, I think I can express, is they're aware there are expectations that have not been there in the past, as far as specifically the amounts and what specifically that entailed, like for your body camera, that you have to, have a hole for that and all those kind of things. I can't speak to that, but they have been made aware of that. And I'm just in there again, it's a repetitious, but yeah, as far as what I've expressed it before. As far as I'm totally in favor of the body armor, and I think I can safely say that the mayor and all 6 council people expressed individually that they want as much protection as you possibly can. But there again, as Rick stated, if the clothing allowance, because there have been increases, that you decide that that's high priority, then and again, I'm just speaking for myself, not for the council, but what they represented, I felt like I heard was, if you want to lower, that the insurance goes down to 6.25 or whatever it takes to, or lesser amount on the clothing allowance, that's your choice.
So that'll lead me to my next question.
Mhm.
What is the overall cost of the victim witness lead? And we know that the cost to the person who gets that position is $1 amount, while the larger cost to the city, because there's other expenses that come in, Social security, retirement, whatever the case may be. What do those numbers come out to? What's the cost on that?
And that's, I'm just clarification, that's not a new position.
It's not a new position, but it's an
It's an
increasing pay for
increased
somebody.
wage position.
It's an increase in pay. I mean, it's another step, sure. So certainly,
We'll give you the number. I mean, it's easy to figure out.
it's what, $1.37 over the three. This is hourly, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably 30.
I mean, you're looking at about $2,000+ a year per dollar, and then another 30% on top of that for benefits. So I mean, I
The
think,
wage itself's about 3,000 a year.
so, yeah, and I think it's worked into the budget that's being submitted. So, and it's no different. I mean, the contract guarantees increases that are built in. There's contractual increases. So when the position control committee meets, to your point, is this a net increase because you're creating a position? Yeah. So this was one position where there was a priority to say, hey, you're going to be asking a little bit more out of this lead. They should be paid a little bit more. So there's a rational basis for trying to develop the position.
This is my,
Yeah.
speaking from what I have to say to the body, right? So we're gonna guarantee one person an additional $3,000, give 176 of you, will continue paying out of your pocket. Even if it's $5,000, $6,000 increased cost of the city, have to justify to 176 people that this is an acceptable portion while you still take money out of your pocket. How do I do that?
Yeah. Well, you know,
Especially this is a one-year contract. Is this a necessity right now?
yeah. Well, this is
Well, in the
this
city,
is
I
the
mean,
first.
it was
yeah.
already budgeted, but there wasn't any money earlier. But it was already budgeted to have a.
It was budgeted within the same criteria that was set to keep budgets low. So there's cost savings that every department's come up with to offset any increases, and some of it might be travel conference allowance. You know, there's different line items that a lot of departments came back and said, we're decreasing here to fund this. And so really the directive went out is that anything that you're funding needs to be offset. There's some exceptions to that. Again, there's some exceptions. I will, I'm not going to divulge a lot of information, but I mean, one small piece, for example, there was some adjustments for certain salary adjustments. I'll talk about code enforcement because I received code enforcement. We had some members in code enforcement that we gave a very small increase to because when we did the position control committee, but they also didn't get their position. Their position got axed. Council authorized a position for them that's actually in their budget year, but that position is going to be coupled with the other deputy clerk position that was for 6 months to fund the deputy clerk position next year. But there's small increases that were given based on wage equity. So if there's people that are down in the, not to get so far into the weeds, but people 15.75 an hour, where there's potential they're going to walk. And we don't want turnover in these jobs. You know, another $1 an hour, an extra $2,000 a year in their pocket because, you know, 2,080 hours a year might make the difference in keeping a qualified person with the city. So those are the tough decisions that the position control committee is looking at, you know, each week. So as far as this position, I think it comes in within that budget. But as far as going to your members to answer that question, to ask them to pay out of pocket, I understand that that's the case for some. I don't know if that's the case for all of your members, if they're paying out of pocket, every single one, or if they are able to buy
More than the 50%
uniforms.
vote that I need.
What's that?
It'll be more than the 50% vote that I need.
Okay.
And again, back to
Yeah.
my last point, if this is a one-year contract, what is the necessity to pay this amount of money to this person rather than shifting it to the entire body?
Well, you're talking here about a few $1,000s. The uniform would cost,
But it might
like we
offset
said,
cost.
50,000 plus, what's that? So
Right.
it
If we start
really
jockeying
becomes,
numbers that might offset a cost.
I'm sorry. I missed
If
that
we
one.
start jockeying numbers, that might offset cost to the entire body. It'll be a small cost, but it's still a cost.
Well, 50,000 right now with our budget, you heard Doug give the presentation, the contingency money that was found, a good faith effort was made by this council to look at that, and I know it might not seem like much on your end hearing this, but to take that chunk of money that was buffer and to allocate a big portion of that to try to keep your health insurance whole at the 7% request. And so I know that might not seem like much, but I think there was a lot of heavy lifting done on this side to get the council on board with the 208. When you came with your request on the uniform and the vest, I don't think anyone's disputing whether there might be members who are paying out of pocket. If that's a pain point, we hear that. It really is just a challenge with the dollars that can be allocated in this year's budget. So I understand the difficulty on your end, but the line is drawn around 216 as far as from council. We've had 2 executive sessions out with council. And I'd say that there has been a lot of lifting on our end, and I know that you have to go to your association. What I would ask respectfully is that you take what the city's best efforts are in the fiscal conditions surrounding this year's budget, and what I would communicate is the financial forecast got a little bit better. Here's the money. Was able to go to council. If that forecast didn't get better, I don't think we were talking here about even the 216 or the health insurance piece. We would be really talking more about the freeze, which we kind of came out. The financial forecast right now, it's not great, but it was improved over the initial forecast. And a big chunk of that money is being allocated towards your health insurance costs in a 1-year contract. So I don't want to reiterate myself, but I just do want to underscore that.
I do
To
have
your
a
body,
question though.
yeah.
So Chad, what is the average step increase for you, for a regular, say, patrol officer this year? What's the step increase?
I'm not
Per
sure
year.
where everybody's at per scale. I can tell you based on contract here, I can tell you, there's a 3-year step increase, I believe, a 5-year step increase for patrol officers.
And that's not gonna make, I guess what I'm getting
this
at a
year?
little bit, that there is gonna be some type of increase automatically in the contract.
It's depending on where you're at. correct?
Right, where that could be used though for uniform.
But it still comes out of their pocket, right? That's the pay.
Yeah,
rate, so
but
you-
what I
you
guess,
pay them.
you know what I said, I think, last meeting or whatever, we're trying the future, I'm not talking about this contract year. We're trying to equalize. There are no step increases for anyone else for the city, other than fire and police. They're not seeing any COLA or step increase. So there is at least something happening within your body that can be utilized by the choice of the individual, whether they use that for clothing or
And don't disagree with that logic.
not. Okay.
However, I am not in this room. If I'm one of my voting members.
I
and
understand that.
have
If
to
I was
tell
in
them-
your place, I'd be saying the
I'd have to
same
tell them,
thing.
hey, congratulations, you got a step increase from our previous contract, so look forward to that. When it's already budgeted or expected in their
Yeah.
household, that's not a good selling point for me.
I understand that. I'm just, from the outsider, more or less looking in and trying to look at the whole body, just not the police or the fire. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
there
there's-
is opportunity.
No, that's a good point. We're not trying to pit employee against employee, but I think there's different perspectives. You bring up a valid point. I think the other point, as Councilman Bruder pointed out, is that when we do the budget, what has to be built in is when we do the position control, I'll say it's mostly a formality when there's police and fire requests, when we meet weekly with me and Ed Carras, who's our budget analyst, and Jamie Chapman. When we see it's fire, police, and we see it's a contractual obligation, it's yes. And those increases those are very real increases that are built in contractually. So the only qualifier I'd add to Councilman Bruner, I'm not aware of any contractual obligation to other city employees for step increases. We do have steps. So for example, code enforcement, there's officer 1, there's officer 2. With the clerk, there's 1 and 2. They can put in a request. Those are requests that will field. But there's no contractual obligation from the city. So someone might come in, a supervisor or department head might come in and say, you know what, I think my clerk should move from a 1 to 2. They've satisfied some criteria. There's a rational basis for it. It's one of the things we look at. We look, do we have the dollars and cents? Was it budgeted for? And what we've moved in this year, especially with Ed Carras's leadership, kind of as a budget analyst controller, is when we submit a budget, you have to build into that budget the anticipated cost increases, and so we'll ask, is it budgeted for? And you might have a supervisor saying, no, they're stepping up, but what might be just $1.50 an hour to you is, you know, again, $3,000, $4,000 to the city. We don't have it in the budget, there's no authorization, so I know that that's been a pain point. So what we've told supervisors is anticipate where those increases might be. You could put in for it, but there's no contractual guarantee. And so, when we've met as a committee, sometimes there's requests that come in and say, hey, we told this employee, you know, if they satisfied these 3 steps, we'd try to get there, but there's no contractual obligation. Of course, we're not trying to go back on promises, but I just want to reiterate the security, as long as the city maintains good fiscal health for the fire and police contract, that is one thing that has to be looked at, is so that there are built-in raises for your members that are contractual. So, what you've earned, what you deserve.
Right,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
agree.
I'm not here to say you, like, somehow you're getting something you don't deserve,
Right.
but.
Yeah, and I think we don't want to really entertain the conversation, not to be rude, but,
Mm-hmm.
because we could take it to the next example of, half our body may be set for a step increase, so we don't need to apply a cost of living adjustment to that pay scale, because you're getting a cost of living adjustment per a step increase. So to me, respectfully, this conversation is a road that I don't think is super applicable.
Definitely not one we can sell to the body.
Yeah,
One that's gonna go over well on our end.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on the monetary end from our side? Anything else on the monetary?
No, just, the city is offering, is doing the best it can, and while it might not be heard on your end, we've already committed ourselves to a 0% budget increase for property taxes. I think the front page of today's paper is Boise did the same, most of the cities are, and that's just the budget climate we're in. We're in that climate, we've already set that target, and we're not gonna go up. So, we're looking at what the dollars are available, and we're offering a big chunk of that in the 216 number, and we would like to see you do the body armor if that's a need. And then as far as the other 208, if it's preferred 7% in insurance, we can go back to council and try to, you know, confirm that within the budget, because the budget presentations are coming up. I would like, and I know you have a challenge to go to your body, but I think that I would take this to your body and just respectfully ask that they consider what the city's best capacity is within the current budget climate is, and that is to try to keep your members whole on the insurance piece and do a little bit on the best piece in this one-year contract.
So, if we can move on to the non-monetary, is there any conversation on your side based on non-monetary items we have not come to an agreement on yet? Such as the language for Article 18, the holidays, our stance is to remove the wording that the city put in for contract employees.
Yeah, so that's just, that's a formality, so that language will be removed. I think I sent an email out to do kind of offsite house cleaning. That would be one area to TA and do a tentative agreement on.
So I did open the attachment that was sent with that, but when I printed it, it still had the red struck out language on it. It looked clean when I opened it, but I printed it and it wasn't clean anymore.
So it was probably on the review track thing, and that's confusing, I'm learning that. Microsoft has a review pane, and so I struck it out, and that's probably what you saw when you printed it, probably printed the edited version. So I can send a clean PDF, which doesn't have the track changes. So one of the things I talked about is sending a Word document that has the track changes, and also a clean PDF, which would have the edit. So I'll do that as a housekeeping item on the holiday piece.
All right, Article 11, switching PEHP to VIVA. I assume that I think there was some conversation about timing on that, but we're good to TA on that one?
Yeah, the language as you presented it looked good to us, so that is a TA. Was that listed here in the minutes as a TA?
I don't know.
Oh, I think it was, oh yeah, non-monetary proposal for PHP to HRA VIVA.
So
Yeah.
the version you sent to us doesn't have the initials, it has the language of, we will continue discussions?
Yes,
We're ready to strike that and move on with it?
correct, we can get a clean version of that and sign that, yep.
Okay. We do have a TA here for moving the holiday bank pay to an off payday, pass that back to the city. We have initialed and I believe there's a date on there, maybe not. And
Oh, very good, okay. So it's just for the record, Chad has signed, initialized non-monetary proposal 6, which is Article 18, it's the holiday bank pay, Nathan, and I'll circle back with Nathan as he keeps minutes, so.
And that one is the one-year agreement, obviously. Dates are included in there. We double-check the dates to make sure they're accurate, but
Okay.
it's a pretty one-year agreement. Obviously, it's an easy TA.
Okay.
Did the language change for pay at separation, removing in good standing? It's an easy one. And of course, moving from AAA for arbitration to FMCS is an easy TA. And, let's see.
Separation, yes. Uniform allowance on account. Is that, I'm sorry. Okay, that was the 4A. Yeah, or, no, that's the term of agreement. Go ahead, carry on. Sorry, I was tracking.
I'm just going through the minutes to make sure we're on the same page. So we're gonna get a clean version of the PHP to Viva. And then we'll initial that. Is that something we can accomplish today or no?
I would say, yeah, right, you got.
So why don't
you
we,
can print it.
for the record, for the public, we have agreement with language that has been presented, that you've presented. It would be TA'd right now, except for I put to be continued, right, on the version that I sent to you.
Yeah.
And that was because I didn't want to overpromise. I was still in the process, Jamie was still in the process of investigating. We have confidence that we can handle this transfer without transfer fees, we were told from PHP. We were concerned about the time frame, but my understanding is that it would take a while, but it's not going to be overnight. But it wouldn't start until the,
With the language in the proposal is acceptable?
yes, as far as the terms,
TA
yes,
it?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. And I gave you back section, or article, section C, article 18, I believe, holiday pay. Moving
Yeah,
on.
pay it separation.
Okay. And the other one, the same thing on the same pay as for article 18 is moving to the non-paid. It should be two article 18s over there, I believe.
I have one oh yes,
You're talking
two
about the
article
separate check
18s,
one?
correct.
The
Yes.
separate check one?
Holiday bank and then pay it separation, yeah.
Okay, grievance procedures, that's one.
Yeah,
that's,
triple.
We had discussion on last time, the grievance procedures as far as, so the one we passed, the one that's being taken care of by policy is section 103.
Correct, having one and or the other
This one here.
in a disciplinary hearing.
I think that's for our non-monetary number 2.
Yeah, number 9 here is.
You already gave him that, didn't you?
Chip,
No, it's
we
in
just
it,
passed
yeah.
number 9 to him
Take
for
whatever calls. Give it.
changing. who
Well, the
all
AAA?
arbitrators for.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, proposal number 2 for non-monetary is what's being changed for policy. If you look at,
Yeah, that was the disciplinary one. I think having both legal and association rep.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And monetary proposal number 4A, uniform allowance on account. There's a dollar amount attached to that to 4A, which is not consistent with the conversation we just had, that you're not agreeing to increase the uniform allowance. So that one probably isn't a TA as of yet, because there was a dollar amount attached to that, I believe.
4A
Yeah.
this is the one that we.
So 4A just accompanies 4, because 4 changes the dollar amount.
Okay.
4A has language that acknowledges the increase in the dollar amount. So if we haven't agreed on the dollar amount, then 4A is not a TA as well. Does that make sense?
The uniform, yeah, allowance on account. For some reason, it's not right here. Do you have it, Jason, or
Kurt's got it, right?
disappeared in this one? Or there's multiple. Oh, this was the amount that we pushed forward.
No,
Oh, no,
that
no,
was
no,
their-
no, that's yours. It's the
Yeah.
on account. Yes, okay. So it's tied to what the final determination is on the fixed
Yeah,
dollar amount.
because
Okay.
There's a dollar amount attached to that. Obviously, it doesn't, not agreed upon yet.
Hold on.
The language should be agreed to, I believe, but
Hold on, I want to make sure we understand. Let me read this, because I think there's,
That was the increase of the carryover?
Yeah.
Or is that what that one was?
So 4A
Right.
just changes the language to acknowledge if the uniform allowance had gone to 1250, we can hold 2 years, which is
Yeah.
2,500
Okay,
instead of
okay.
4A, which means 4A is invalid if we haven't come to a monetary agreement. So that one probably needs to come down to the,
Can we just change the wording to that, because if there was a change supposed to be
Every time.
every time to work? I mean, could we do some wording on that one to make it 2 years of, because, it's 2 years of the hire. Can a records person really carry more than that? Because, is a card capped just at a flat level for everybody? Or is it per person? Is there a cap, you know?
I don't know that.
Yeah, I
I
don't,
don't know
so
if it's something
just
recent.
knowing the functionality of how the card works, it is simply just a debit card with a loaded amount in it. So,
Yeah.
You're
what,
saying that it may be
What-
easier to just change.
what
the
we're
rate,
saying, so,
carry over to
and what we're saying in the contract is what we would, because I think the function of it, yeah, you could continue to load that up as much as you want, but for the function of it, what we didn't want to see is people use that as a savings account and just hang on to it for years. We wanted
Yeah.
to see a portion of that
Well,
spent, but still enough to carry over in case you wanted a bigger item that would
Yeah.
cost more.
I was wondering if the wording could, instead of actual dollar amounts be put on there, that it would
A
equal.
percentage or something.
or-
2 years worth.
Yeah. that-
Just to avoid having to go back to change 4A every time we change 4. Hopefully we change 4 every year from here on in. Agreed? Good. But,
Yeah, right. I didn't say that.
okay, so
Take that as a
we can talk about that.
That was
We can talk about
Councilman Brunner
That's-
that
that's not
said that.
the point. All right, so 4A is moved down to the non-agreements, which takes us into the non-agreements. The last chance agreements, has the city had any other conversation on that? Last time we met, MPPA stance was that the Idaho code you presented us with does not apply because that specifically references personnel files, which that document is not a part of the personnel file until it's agreed upon and signed and entered to the personnel file. It's merely a draft. And again, at the end of the day, based on what we talked about with our attorney, in order to protect the contract, we do intend on going to agreements if the last chance agreements reviewed were issued without our approval. Our review, approval of that word, without our review to make sure it does not violate the contract.
So let me, just to speak, yeah, talk to legal and reviewed the material that they sent back. The Washington case law that you sent said doesn't apply. It's a different statutory climate than Idaho's statutory climate. My understanding, and Jason and Kurt can talk to this, is if a member of your body wants the last chance agreements given to them, are they given a time frame to review it before, or do they have to give an immediate answer?
No, there's a time frame, generally 5 days.
Okay. And in
Can be extended.
those 5 days, they can consult with the association for review, consultation, before giving a response to the city on that. I think you reiterated in our last meeting that you wanted a mandatory review as part of the process. So my understanding is the city would grant that review at the request of the member of your association.
Okay, so from our stance, that'll be a word game. We will file agreements if last chance, this is notification
Yeah.
of where we stand, simply because we can't allow the contract to be violated. on
So,
individuals.
yeah, well, anticipate fully you to file agreements when the contract's violated. But
Correct.
to be clear, just not having the last chance agreement reviewed is not a violation of the contract by itself. If the last chance agreement includes measures that are in violation of the contract, then would absolutely expect you to file agreements on that. But I just,
The
for
problem-
clarity's sake,
The problem
that-
with what you're saying there is we
Yeah.
won't know until it's too late. And then how do you go back and fix something that's happened for 6 months? Let's use the same example we just had, the seniority issue, right? We don't find out about that because we didn't review it. 6 months down the road, everybody got their lives adjusted, but it's a violation of the contract. How do you fix that last 6 months without us reviewing, without us reviewing the last chance agreement?
And we may not even know that the last chance agreement got entered into, or was even put on the table, so.
and that might be the preference of a member of your body.
Devil's advocate is
Yeah.
though, a last chance agreement could be going on indefinitely, we'd have no idea. There could be an underlying violation of the contract that we may never be aware of.
Yeah,
And how do you fix that? When you go backwards, what's the resolution to that? And I don't expect you to have an answer.
Yeah.
It's food for thought.
no, I think we want to respect the right of the members of your association to request that review if they want to. If they don't request it and they happen to agree to something that is a breach of contract, when you're made aware of that, would understand that there'd be agreements filed. So understand the intent, I think, on the front end to review that, to try to do, yeah, I think the members
I don't think there's a
yeah.
measure in place, I think that's the concern.
I would, if I were you, I'd ask that the members of your body, whenever they enter into a last chance agreement, have you review that on their behalf to make sure that. the
So,
terms-
so,
Yeah.
again, just talking here at the table without legal
Yeah.
and without the attorneys going back and forth, it sounds very plausible on your end. But the violation will still be on the city's shoulders because they allowed the employee to violate the contract. That's our stance. But there's no point in going back and forth if we're not coming to an agreement. You know our stance, we know yours.
Yeah.
So,
I just for the sake of clarity, wanted to know that the grievance would not be the lack of review for the last chance agreement, but it'd be
That's not.
if you determine that there was terms within that last chance
I
that
fully
merited
intend on
agreements.
including both portions into agreements if we have to do one, so I might as well get out of the way. Because I don't want to go to grievance every time a last chance agreement's violated, or I'm sorry,
Yeah.
a contract's violated.
Yeah.
Because it's costing us money. Let's just get it done. I'd rather pay up front and just be decided.
Mm-hmm.
The arbitrator says, NPPA, you're wrong, we pay once.
Mm-hmm.
If we have to go back and do this every time a last chance agreement may violate the contract, it's not cost effective. Right, that's just common math.
Yeah.
And I'm not the math guy on the team, but that just makes sense.
No, I get it.
Okay,
So right now, yeah, no further comment.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, we've agreed, non-monetary proposal number 5 is going above.
Correct, pending a clean PDF version with contract employees removed.
So non-monetary number 11, PL accrual rate is a no-go. Monetary proposal number 1 is still in the works. That's the insurance portion.
Correct.
Monetary.
Which is a health, yeah, and that's a fixed amount. I also did, I forgot to mention, just so fixed on the dollar amount, and I think I mentioned at the last meeting, the city will not, will stick with the fixed dollar amount, but not accept the amended language as far as the potential fiscal liability tied to the.
Correct, yeah,
piece.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
we're in agreement on that.
I just didn't want there to be a surprise. So if you go to your members for a vote and they think that language is included and they find out that's
No,
not.
they
I
haven't
don't
seen
want
any of
that.
the language
Okay,
yet. We
okay,
can after we have
okay.
come to an agreement.
all right.
Okay, so COLA's off the table. Uniform allowance is not agreed upon yet. A TA for the body armor, and 6 is increase for corporals and sergeants, and 7 was a bonus. So my question is, are we capable of doing a clean version of the PHP Viva,
Okay.
the holiday language, and the body armor allowance today? Is that
So
possible?
what you're asking is this, we take a break, he goes back to his office and
Is that a possibility?
cleans that up.
I can just initialize the body armor as you proposed. That looks good. So we'll call an executive session.
Okay.
Just to review that. But I mean, I'm prepared to, we don't need to overly formalize. We can just both initialize and date it even if
that
the
works for
line's
you.
not there. So it would carry the same force as the rules that we set forth, that if we both sign a piece of paper, we're agreeing tentatively to that language. PHP, holiday, striking out, I could print that out, yeah, give me 5-10 minutes, we can do a break on that, and then, was it the PHP?
Yeah, so non-monetary proposal number 4, PHP to HRA Viva, he's clean.
So what I'll do is I won't like format it with the TA, I'll just print out the clean versions, come back from executive session, we can just sign below,
And when we are
add
done,
that to the stack.
when we're done with the TAs, if we could get a copy of all the ones we've agreed upon for our own records, because that's the only copy right now.
Absolutely. So I will sign those, you sign them, and then when we're done with our meeting, that could be an offline thing where I'll go make photocopies on the way out the door and hand you the photocopies.
Okay.
So we're gonna have an executive session, 10 minutes,
I'm looking for 20.
you want 20 minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you getting dinner for the rest?
No,
I'm just kidding.
just some conversation.
Okay, 20 minute what time is it? All right, we'll come back at 6:15. And just to do that housekeeping stuff, I think we're done. All right. Session. All right. So printed off, so here are copies, or color copies of the, what you already signed, Chad, handed out. And then what I also have here are the signed, and I actually did format it, it wasn't too hard, just copied and pasted that. So this is the body armor one, over to Chad. This is the holiday list with that language struck out. This is the H-Ray Aviva one. And then for your consideration were the two that we rolled out today. I just signed and dated with today's date, and we'll put the ball in your court. Although I don't have copies of these, but, so you'll have the original signed TAs on those, so they either don't get signed or they just fall by the wayside.
Back, right, should be a
Yep.
copy of that.
Okay, thanks, and I'll have Nathan, once we get the full set. So I guess as we close with signing these, it's good to make some headway on this. I guess what's remaining pending for your body would be the insurance piece and potentially the uniform piece if you happen to divide the money out separately. So the body armor piece has been signed. So I think that those are the last two pieces. Is there another, is that, are we on the same page with what's remaining?
We're willing to approach the body with the vest and the 7% increase in insurance. I'll tell you, it's, obviously we need to ask for full 20 minutes because it's some very in-depth conversations amongst us as to
That's the previous contract. One way.
whether or not the city is fully supporting us in this matter, because part of what we talked about was the vest allowance is really no cost to the city. It's a grant from the Fed. We talked about it last time. It's covered for the last 3 years. Otherwise, we can cover it again. So there's really no increase for us in the city as far as going into the conversation we had last time with values what we're doing here, because the Feds are paying for it in a nutshell.
I think
Well, we'll take that to the table.
clarification, Doug did say, and I'm just speaking with Doug, that if we get grant, which I think he was optimistic, it's 50%. It's not the full 100%.
Okay.
So it'll be a 4,000. I
Okay.
think.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
We also had conversations about this and what NPPA's role is in this portion here. Much to Tyler's point, is this more inclined or more in line with a specialty pay position rather than a pay increase? Some of our conversation comes down to what is our role in deciding what this person does, because we're the ones who are going to handle at the end of the day the arguments and disagreements amongst the employees of why did the victim witness lead write me up and they're not a supervisor, whatever the case may be. But we'll be honest, we're 50-50 on the increase there without knowing what it is that person truly does.
And we
I
can
would-
get it to a job description, not to interrupt. I mean, just so you know, we'll get that sent out to you guys tomorrow, to the whole board.
I will tell you that the conversation we had at the table, what your expectations are, maybe more defined in a written document, is not what your current sergeant FJC expects. So the probably needs to be from there, and then our conversation comes back to, is this more in line with the K-9 coordinator, or is it more in line with the supervisor? Either way, there's a pay increase. It's just a matter of what do we have to deal with on the back end, right? Because it's going to come down to complaints coming to us. So if we can clear that one up, we do have a time frame to present the contract to our body, so I think this is the last point for us to come to an agreement on before we actually set a date. I know the council is up against I think July 15th, July 16th time frame.
13th is the
The
discussion.
13th?
Is for budget.
So what sort of time frame can we look at to meet one more time to talk about this?
So the issue is that just I want to be sure I understand this. You're not disagreeing with the increase, or you just need clarification on what it is. So do we need to meet
And what to call
back?
it.
That's a
Is that
touchy subject
essentially-
too, as far as agreement amongst the board. Ultimately, no, we're not gonna stand in the way of an increase.
So, okay, so that, my question is, do we need to meet back? Or we can give that, because that's all administrative
I
stuff
guess the question
offline.
comes down to what is the increase gonna be, right? So if we come to if we say TA today, and we leave an open blank thing, so later the administration comes back and says it's more inclined with a percentage, and we haven't come to an agreement on what that percentage is, it kind of leaves an open end.
And that, what that difference is there is 5%. That's what we used for that, well, I'm sure you figured that out, but for that difference.
Okay. So we've come to an agreement today then that regardless of where it fits, specialty pay or a pay bump in Appendix A, it'll equal 5%.
Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Yeah, over the three.
Right. Yeah, over the victim witness.
And that's the last,
Yeah.
yeah, step in
Do
the.
we need to change the language for documentation purposes, or leave it as is? Or is the verbal record good enough? What do we need to do?
So,
So I think if you get with that, I would change it to 5%.
5%
you're good-
over
I mean,
victim
that's-
witness
Victim witness
3, or, yeah.
Can't you just handwrite that or initial, or do you have to have a typed portion?
I'm sorry, I just got a memo. Boise Police closed down Capitol Boulevard. I guess they're having
Yeah, they have
a
their.
defund police protest tonight.
Yeah, it was-
And then
it was a
there's a
fun
counter
time.
protest
Okay.
going on as well, on the other side of it.
Oh, sorry, I was distracted by that alert that came in from Amy. So the question was whether or not we need to change the language or
So what they're asking is, do we change it to
5%?
5%, because it equals the same amount. And 5% would be consistent with.
It would
what's
just be
in
the gap
contract.
between,
Between the victim witness 3 and victim witness lead, supervisor,
You don't have to
coordinator,
change the
whatever we
dollar
call
amount
it.
every time they get a.
Right.
yeah, sure, okay, breaking
Do we need more than two?
for executive session. Okay, all right. We'll just stay seated.
Or if there's an armed robbery,
This is getting weird.
ask him about his
Oh,
childhood.
God.
Anyhow, sorry. All right, let me text Mark real quick, make sure we're on. We're back again.
We need more than 2 minutes, okay.
That's fine.
I stuttered.
It was two
It
thirty-one.
took me a long time.
All right, we're good. We're back on at 6:31. Executive session. Okay, we were talking about the lead coordinator.
So in a nutshell, to condense our more than 2 minute conversation
That's
out there, and not to go into details here, but we prefer to leave it as the 2879. Just pause it. Not worry about the other stuff. Not worry about the 5%, not worry about special pay, the job assignment, the administration, and the
Okay,
we'll
so,
keep it as is.
okay.
Minus all the drawings.
See.
You'll find out later.
What's the end?
Can you still send the job description though?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no angle other than our side. There was a lot of conversation back and forth about the benefits of being in a specialty pay group, not being a specialty pay group. Is it worth, if we put this at the 5%, do we have a different pay scale now where we have one supervisor at a 5% pay scale and everyone else is a dollar amount? There's a lot of, like I said, in a nutshell,
No,
clean
no.
version will TA.
That's fair. There was no, yeah, okay.
Let's go get it.
We'll do a clean version on that. Okay. So you're gonna meet as we wrap, yeah, there's a budget workshop with the council July 13th. Monies will be proposed within that budget, and so the budget can't go up, it can go down. Those funds that Doug identified were like contingency monies that, in good faith, I think are being retained within the budget proposal, but we do need to hear back whether to allocate that money accordingly or reallocate or drop the money.
Do you have a time frame of,
The bylaws require a 72-hour notice, I believe 72.
Okay.
At the longest is 72, maybe 48, but we need to put a notification out, so
It might be a challenge too, we're going on the 4th of
Yeah,
July.
say
it
it
might be a
might be.
challenge. So probably next week will probably be our first opportunity to actually set a meeting.
so potentially that Thursday then, we can meet back?
We could have the answer before then, yeah.
Like a week from Thursday? Yeah. Because I think the budget workshop
That gives
is
us
it Monday,
time to-
it's the 13th.
Coordinate.
Week from Monday is 13.
Yep, week from Monday is the
Week
budget
from
workshop,
week
so,
from-
so, yep, I guess we'll wait to hear back and then,
Do we need to, before we close this, do we need to TA the other items? This one we talked about minus, I'll TA this if you don't mind the drawings.
no, I don't mind the drawings, it'll work.
And then,
And where we don't have agreement, like I said in my email, there's no need for us, the public record already has on record the proposals.
but we do need to do a TA on the insurance portion. That one has not been signed.
Which one?
The insurance, 7% increase.
Oh, correct.
Did we address the other proposal that the city did today? About the probationers thing?
Oh,
Yeah, he signed that and returned
That's
it.
gone through.
Actually, did I give you
No,
that for a
Albert.
copy?
Sneaky.
There should be two there. Or did you already give it to them?
Probationary period. This one.
So before he goes, do you have the insurance one to TA right now?
And so do you need to
So
write,
it's all
Right.
three of them.
isn't it written up as before?
Yeah, it's the,
Just need to make just a
7%.
TA and get a copy?
Yeah, I didn't sign that was a remaining, that was because there was an agreement, so. Just to be clear, you have, yeah, those two are the only, well, he just handed back some that he signed. Were those the only two?
well, I think he was asking about the insurance one.
Yeah, so we
That
still
they're
get
willing to
TA,
TA that one
assigned
at
TA
7%.
for the insurance one. The only copy I have includes the IIIA language that needs to be redacted with us. So if we have, do you have that? I sent it to the city in a Word, so I can pull up my email or your email, and we can make the redaction to the, but again, the top paragraph does have red language in it, which I think needs to stay. It's not about IIIA, but it does clarify that we are involved with more than one insurance company. It's the middle block needs to come out.
These four need to be copied too. These were the four clean ones that we came out of executive session. You haven't made copies, or have you?
I think I did.
Did you get copies of the four, the grievance, AAA? I'm drawing a blank. These were the ones I gave to you after the first executive session. You have copies, the holidays, pay at separation,
I have uniforms, PEHP,
holiday bank.
I have the holiday language from the city policy going into contract.
Oh, those were the clean, okay, you already made copies of those. Okay, I think we're good then. I just want to make sure that. So the insurance,
Just need the insurance.
So the insurance one needs to be cleaned out because we need to redact the language from AAA.
so I can revert back to, so the challenge to be clear is I don't want to create a proposal. Is
I think
that,
that's, this one was the original, I had the no mark because it was
Read it.
back a while, but is that?
but wasn't that in the
original?
2-year, that was the original 2-year?
That's a
Oh,
Yeah,
is
this
it?
is the
Oh.
2-year.
All right.
So that was the, so I think what we need to do on that is, so I think you offered those terms in the context of a 2-year, and then the most recent monetary proposals was you reduce it to a 1-year, but you added that language that you're referring to, the red language. So we don't have a clean version of just the dollar amount without the amended language on a 1-year.
Correct. It is in one of our, well, it's in my sent box, your inbox, so if you have access to a printer, we could open up the Word version, cut that language out.
Cut the language out, yes. Cut the language out, all the red.
Just the second paragraph, right? I think the red language on top.
There was red in paragraph 1 too, the MPPA, thank you. Okay, wait. Yes, are these the,
Okay, so, here.
okay, here's the copies, the 2 that we offered today.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. Get
Let's
confused.
take that out.
Okay,
No, that's,
The first, take a look
Yeah.
at it.
so you said that MPPA has chosen a contract for health, dental, and vision insurance for its members from a private insurance producers? That was in red language in Article 11, Section A to begin with. Was that added or amended language?
It's just amended language. It really has nothing to do with the language. It's amended. It's not a hard word for us. The original language says the NPPA has chosen a contract for health, dental, and vision insurance for its members from a private insurance producer. The point of the new language to identify that we are not with one producer because.
Okay,
the
you
city
just added the
requires-
S within
Wh-
parentheses.
which we've never been with one producer.
Okay.
Even when we were with Pacific Source and Blue
Okay.
Cross, it was Delta.
So it's to remove paragraph 2 in Article 11. This copy, you sent to me a Word version of this? Yes, okay, because I have a hard copy. I will open the Word version, delete that paragraph. The dollar amount, 17,257.
Which paragraph you cutting out? It was the one that was proposed by AAA. about-
Correct.
Okay.
That's the language that I'd strike out, and then the 17, I think we verified that dollar amount. We'll call an executive session. I'll go clean a
257. Okay.
5-minute executive session.
I suggest 10 because it took me longer than 2, but whatever, you do you.
It goes faster than you think.
We'll do 5. Come back at 5, and then,
6:30.
all right, hey, call in executive session. All right. I will go take care of this one. I think we're good. Mark's been watching, he's on top of it. Okay, so monetary proposal number 1 has been amended. This matches what you presented minus that second paragraph.
And the dollar amount, you check the math, and you're comfortable with the dollar amount?
Yep, that's 7% over last year's 630, 20. So it's rounded to the dollar, we're at the pennies. Yes,
Did that rounding go up or down?
it went up.
4 cents extra.
I'll take it. Compounding interest worth $4 in 20 years.
Watch that movie, Office Space, right? Just the penny. Okay, so I think we have all our TAs done. Thanks, Chad, for, I know we took some breaks here, but we walk away today with all our TAs done, and that's what you're going to your body with, pretty much all our TAs, is that correct?
We're at the end of the line.
Yep.
Until we get a vote.
Okay, and then you'll
Then
try
we'll
to
need
schedule
8
that?
Meetings after that.
What's that?
So then we'll need 8 more meetings after that.
I will be absent, by the way. if there's
So I think that's it. I think Tyler's reading it.
So education me, then, so when your body with a vote, what is it, just, is it a majority, is it 2/3?
Majority vote.
Majority as far as what your bylaws read. And do you have is there, I mean, a certain number of officers that have to vote? Would you have a minimum?
We need 8 for a quorum. However, contract years draws a large crowd.
Well, yeah, I mean, 8 would not be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you,
And I guarantee there will be some input
You think?
and some conversations.
You guys, well, let me just say, you guys are tough positions, so you've represented to me your body well. And
Thank you.
pass.
Make a copy.
Please make a copy.
I'll make a copy and then bring it back.
Just-
Okay. So you'll call for a meeting and then you can reach out to me. We don't need to have a meeting for you to tell me what the response is of your body, I
I
think.
think last in the contract, we just notified you with yes or no.
Okay.
And then went to council.
And then whatever our TAs are would, I think admin, you would keep track because the contractual languages would change. And then the fiscal piece would be of interest, of course, the finance and the
Hold on,
council.
what did you just say?
We changed the language, you mean?
The contract
Contract
Get the
language,
actual
yeah.
contract updated.
Right.
Contingent on budget approval because it's all one piece. So I think that would be the next steps, right? And then we sign it. You've had a signing. I haven't attended a signing. I didn't
We
attend
didn't
a
do a
signing.
formal, like, hey,
So just-
I went to administration's office, I signed it, and they sent it back.
Oh,
Wasn't a big press conference or anything.
well, Fire,
No TV
I
cameras.
saw
or anything?
Fire had like a picture. I think Adam Swift.
Really?
came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you signed it.
I think we've done it once in front of council.
If there was a historical moment, I might ask for a picture. I think we're good otherwise. One letter per pin.
Hand them out.
What is this?
There you go.
That's funny.
Those are
That is funny.
the back and forth on. Okay, I'll arrange these all.
So we have an official adjournment, or we still?
So I think, I forgot, I lost track of how many meetings we've had.
This is 5, I believe.
5.
We're
Okay.
still able to present more proposals based on the rules of 8. See you next time.
No,
I got a couple good
I
ones.
think we're good. So, any closing comments? Don't wanna follow.
No, I do, just, I mean, not to get all crazy here again, but thank you for letting us express some of our frustrations. It's not easy for us to do that to our positions of our administration and our city council. Director, we appreciate you giving us the leeway to speak our minds. We'll reach out as soon as we have a vote.
Yeah. Thank you, all 4 of you, Deja Vu. We did this 2 years ago. I was in Darrell's seat. Thanks, Darrell, for, this was, I think, your first.
Yeah, and it's been
Time saving budget.
education. I mean,
Yeah.
Hopefully you still won't pick me up any more than you normally do. And,
I think
no,
education.
You
yeah.
guys, I mean, you, like I just said, I mean, your body can be proud of you guys.
Appreciate it.
Just make sure.
Yep, your body can be. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate all the assistance. So, all right, we'll wait to hear back from you.
Thank you.
This meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Hey, thanks, Nate.